By the way, we met before, not really met, but after the show. It was in Hanau. It was like here, quite a couple of years ago, maybe 2010 or something, when Helge Schneider was playing there. Yeah. And I came to you after the show, and we talked a little bit about Louis Bellson, and you gave me your stick. So,
oh, how nice.
Thanks for that, by the way.
Yeah, that's good. I don't do that very often, actually. I don't give away sticks very often because I don't use sticks very often. I don't never break sticks.
No, it's still like
they get chopped up a bit. Yeah. Hi there. This is Pete York speaking to you on the Drum Talk channel. Looking forward to this.
Since almost 6 years, I travel around Germany and Europe to talk with drummers just because of the love for music I have and for filming and for drums. And what has your love of music made you do? What was the ultimate thing that you did because of the love for music?
Well, I suppose, first of all, I had to contend with my father because when I discovered this love for music and began to get sort of obsessed by the idea of playing the drums, I was about 10 years old, I suppose. And at first, my father thought it was a pretty silly hobby. My mother always supported me, and that's the way it went through my childhood. My mother always said, "Oh, let him do it, you know, he's having fun with it." I was already, as you so rightly put it, I think in love with the music. The first music which I heard, bear in mind I'm listening to music in the very early 50s, 1951, 52, I really started to listen to the radio, which is what we had in the house. And listening to that, I heard what I didn't understand then, but it was jazz music. And I found it a very happy, a very rhythmic music. And I was listening to people like Louis Armstrong very early on. Now this was, to me, these were my first influences. My first influence on the drums, and you'll probably hear this from several other people, if you find people old enough, was Gene Krupa. Because Gene Krupa was a drummer who you could hear quite regularly playing with people like Benny Goodman on famous records, but also he had been in films, and he was a very charismatic looking guy, as everybody says. So if you saw Gene Krupa playing drums in a movie, it made you feel, oh, that looks wonderful, this looks so glamorous, that's something I would like to do. So Gene Krupa became a very important thing for me, and I really started to get involved in music then and trying to build myself a little drum set to play. I didn't have any money, so I had to build it out of cake tins and stuff I found in the kitchen. And as it happened, my cousin, who was a little bit older than me, he had a pair of brushes in his house. I don't know why he had them, but actually the first thing I started playing with was brushes on cake tins. Also, the brushes didn't make that much noise, as sticks would have done, so that was a good thing. My father was very happy about that, interrupting his time at home by, all this noise. But it somehow worked itself out, and luckily my mother was a fan of the same music that I was beginning to like, and so she understood and she encouraged me, and eventually when I got a little bit older, she took me to concerts, or we would say, let's go and do a concert together. So I went with my mother when I was about 16 to see Count Basie's band, for example. And this was a revelation because I'd never seen a big American swing band before, and the rhythm was so powerful. And the drummer was a guy called Sonny Payne, who was an amazing looking drummer, who did terrific, he was a wonderful showman, but also a very exciting drummer. So I was getting to see these people and getting very enthusiastic about what I was seeing, and I was playing, and by now I'd started to build up some real drums in a small way. I had to save up all my pennies and buy one item after the other, so of course I bought a snare drum first. My first snare drum cost me £3. which wasn't a lot of money because it wasn't that great a drum, but at least it was a proper snare drum. You know, it was a chrome snare drum, 14 inches, proper size. You know, so I thought, wow, I got a snare drum. You know, by now I'm playing with the brushes as well. And I went to a school where we had to do military training. You know, it was like an internat. And in the military training, of course, I joined the band. So by the age of 14, I was having some lessons from a military band master. And so I learned the rudiments at that age. And that was very useful. And that's when I realized, of course, the rudiments are pretty much the basis of everything that the drummer does. Some people would argue with that today, but I think if you want to build up some decent technique, or as we call it, chops, then you need those exercises, you know. Like every other instrument has its scales. Our scales are actually our drum rudiments. So that's what I was doing. When you talk about love for anything really, but anything to do with art, for example, that is actually the key to it all. Art is emotion. You know, you're hoping to arouse some emotion in the listener or the viewer or whatever it is you're trying to do. You know, if you're a painter or if you're a dancer, whatever. Love for the subject is primarily important. And I think if people go into music more with the idea of, well, I'm going to impress everybody, I'm going to show everybody how good I am, how fast I am, how loud I am, whatever, then they're failing. Well, unfortunately, my experience has been over all these years. I was very successful 50 years ago, and we were selling, you know, gold albums and platinum albums and so on. Whatever being a superstar means, I have no idea really. But it doesn't mean a thing in the end. You know, it's what kind of a person you are that's important. And I have no time for divas. I have no time for arrogance. I have no time for people who think they're more important than everybody else when they probably aren't. And I certainly have no time for people who think they are God's gift to music, because most of them are not. The few people who are God's gift to music are actually never make a big fuss about it, or never have, you know. I've met quite a few in my life who I thought were really the great musicians.
When I watch you playing, there's one thing that comes to my mind instantaneously, which is joy.
Yes.
You're a very joyful player.
I definitely feel that. And I feel that I am having fun when I'm playing. I'm enjoying the moment very much. And believe me, when you're on the road, most of the day is a pain in the arse, to be quite frankly. You're traveling, you're getting stuck in traffic jams, you're maybe checking into a lousy hotel. This is a nice hotel, but sometimes they're not so nice. So a lot of the day is actually not that pleasant. But the 2 hours that you are on the stage is another matter. That's the joy. And that's why I hope I look so happy, because that's the place when I'm sitting behind those drums, that's where I feel really good. And the strange thing is, when the music is going well, I find myself doing less on the drums, because the music is going so nicely with the minimum of what I'm doing. I'm very happy when I can actually not, you know, do too much filling in, too much comping, but I can really just play some great time, and then you feel that the rhythm section is working together, and the time starts to really move almost by itself. It's almost like something else has taken over. You know, it's beyond me. And I've played solos once or twice where I've played a solo and I've thought, gosh, this is really going well. Surely I can't keep this up. But somehow you do, but by then it's out of my own control. It's just working so well. Doesn't always happen like that, not at all. But when it does, it's a wonderful feeling. It's great. If I can feel something myself, which I invariably do, and then if I can get the people to feel the way I do about that music that I'm playing at the time. You see, I've led a life which has divided itself between jazz and rock. Jazz being my first love, I make no bones about that. It was sort of unfashionable at one point to be in a rock group and to actually be a sort of a jazzer on the side, because some of my rock colleagues in the 60s, they thought of only rock music as rock music, and therefore jazz was something, noodling around, and it didn't really rock, you see. So a guy like Keith Moon, for example, who didn't really know anything else apart from being Keith Moon, of course everybody remembers him and the great films of him playing and the music that they made, and it's all very exciting. But he once said about me, "Oh, that Pete York, he can't play rock and roll because he's a jazzer." Now, that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever, because it's all music. And the only difference between jazz and rock and roll is that, basically speaking, a lot of rock is played using straight eighth notes, and a lot of jazz is played using a triplet basis. And that's it. Rhythmically, that's the difference. And maybe rock is a lot louder, and there's no dynamics in it. But nothing wrong with that, if it works, it works. People like it and everybody enjoys it, so it's okay.
You have done many different things in television in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
But for me, and any drummer who knows the program Super Drumming, has been a one-of-a-kind thing in television history.
Yeah.
So a TV crew who focuses on a bunch of top-notch temporary drummers on a kind of a big budget.
Yeah.
And it was aired on a family-friendly slot. This sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
Even more today.
Yes.
So how did that happen?
It happened, like a lot of things, by a very happy combination of circumstances. I met a guy in the studios doing another television show, a gentleman called Michael Mashke. And Michael became a very good friend. And Michael had a producer whose name was Richard Epp, who had the power to get things done. And Michael had the idea to put me in the family-friendly television slot, as you say, in the afternoon, to do a sort of drum school. And that was the first concept. And then I said, well, I would rather make it entertaining, because, not just a dry school for drums, here's how to play a paradiddle or whatever, but to do something much more. For a start, it had to have music. I had to have musicians, because I don't think the drums make a great deal of sense all on their own. They're great when they're inside of some kind of musical setup, but on their own, they're a specialist thing for other drummers. And I wasn't just interested in other drummers. I wanted a wider public to see, what we do and how we do it. And, that's really my aim, was to try to make a show rather than some dry piece of TV. My view is that the drums by themselves, we put drum breaks into pretty well every musical number, had some time during the number when the drummers would play their solos, 8-bar breaks, 4-bar breaks, whatever, sometimes an extended solo. So that would be there anyway. But I also wanted people to, you see, I was all the time hoping to seduce the audience, if you like, into listening to music the way I listen to it. In other words, listen to the saxophone, listen to the bass guitar, listen to this, listen to that, because that's what it is. It's more than just people playing the drums. Let's not get the idea the drummer's vastly important. That's true. But in every musical setup I've been in, it's been the band which has interested me, and the spotlight moves around the band. If I'd wanted to appeal to real drum freaks, which I didn't. I didn't want to do that because I know what the drum freaks are like. The drum freaks will sit there and watch somebody playing paradiddles until the cows come home. But that's not, doesn't mean anything to me. It's got to have a purpose. Running through today, I have to say, just as a byline, there's a great deal of chops around. There are people today who've got tremendous chops, playing highly complicated things. But the problem is with these highly complicated things, oftentimes they don't really help the music at all. In fact, they get in the way. Sometimes it's much better just to play a really straight swinging beat. I get back to one of my first influences I just mentioned a few moments ago, the Count Basie band. Okay, that's big band jazz. And some viewers will probably say, well, I don't like big band jazz anyway. I'd rather have AC/DC or whatever. Well, that's okay. This is all okay. But I wanted people to understand how wonderful it can be to listen to a great rhythm section like the Count Basie band, which don't have to be loud. They don't have to slam your ears off. They can just play, and the rhythm itself is irresistible. To my mind, anyway. I thought it was one of the greatest bands in history. You see, we probably did in that very first series, you maybe think about it now, we probably put things in there which were worth putting in, like the number I did with Cozy, that Pots and Pans, where I'm seen to be playing on bits of kitchen equipment and crazy things, and Cozy's playing the drums. And what I wanted to show with that was the fact that most drummers, and this is true, started by banging on things they found around the house. So I just thought, okay, well, we'll make a piece of music out of that. So we did, and that was for itself interesting, and it was fun. But unfortunately, once we've used that idea, that's gone, you see. So then you have to go somewhere else and find something else to do.
You not only have this huge career in jazz and fusion drumming or in rock drumming, but you also are the drummer for German anarchistic comedian and jazz musician Helge Schneider, which I'm a huge fan of since the early 90s.
Yeah.
And had acting roles in, I believe, at least 2 of his movies.
2, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So on one side, you are used to improvise in a solely musical context.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you are with a comedian where during his live shows and in his movies, improvisation happens as well, but differently. Or doesn't it?
Well, it does. And in fact, what I've been doing recently with him is I've been doing some trio things with a guitar player, a very fine player called Henrik Freislader. And we 3 have been playing a few gigs this summer where there is comedy, because Helge's always funny. When he makes an announcement, he's a very amusing guy, and he's improvising with that as well. He doesn't prepare stuff. But as far as the music is concerned, we don't prepare anything. We simply go on the stage and he starts to play, and we begin to play with him when we feel we know where he's going, and we just play. And it goes on like that for 90 minutes or 2 hours. And this is actually the purest sort of jazz performer you could have, because there really is no preparation. It's really a jam session, if you like to call it that, but it works out really well. And he's full of ideas, we're full of ideas, and away we go. It's a great way to play. And this has been a revelation, I think, also to him, because we had these bookings on jazz festivals this year, and we knew that it was basically a jazz public. He didn't want to do lots of comedy anyway, but he's always amusing when he talks, so the announcements were funny. But once he plays, he starts to play, gets settled into the music, and then he's playing to do the best for himself and for the audience. He's not making any compromises. He's just really playing what he wants to play, good music, And mostly on the organ. I mean, it's actually basically the group is organ, guitar, and drums, which is a nice combination anyway. He's playing pedals, bass. So it works out great, and I'm always very happy to be with him. I think we've become very good friends over the years, and I like him a lot. Yes.
So it's more like you are a little bit like in a TV situation where you are the TV band. You have to be aware all the time, and it can happen right the next second, or maybe just in 10 minutes, and you have absolutely no idea. But you have to be aware of the mood, of the flow, and then you got to be as well with the humor. So this is kind of a good feeling spot, but it's very challenging at the same time, I imagine.
Yes, because you have to, when he starts to play something, he knows a lot of music. I mean, he knows a lot of jazz history for a start. So he knows the older jazz, he knows the golden age jazz, he knows the middle period of jazz, he knows the modern jazz. I know all those things as well. So I know kind of where he might want to go with the rhythmic background. In other words, the feel that I'm supposed to get. I mean, you know, you had Dixieland, you had swing, you had modern jazz, you had bebop, whatever. If I get the feeling that he's going in one direction or another, my job as a drummer is to support whatever is going on. So I know whether to be as if I'm playing with Thelonious Monk or whether I'm playing with Earl Hines, you know, two different attitudes of mine. And we talk about it as well. We talk about what he likes to hear from the rhythm section, how he enjoys it, and it's good to talk about music in that way, to discuss how you're going to do it. If the drummer is a guy who simply goes into every playing situation and says, well, I don't care what you want, I am the great star drummer, and therefore I will play it the way I want to play it, well, he might not last very long, you know, because any group of musicians has got to be of the same mindset, really. It's all very well having revolutionaries and fireworks, and it works to an extent. You know, you can have that. It's exciting. It's like, you know, somebody throws a grenade into a room and, hey, that was exciting.
Certainly was for a little amount of time.
Yes.
Crimson is touring the world right now.
Yeah.
Maybe you know, with 3 drummers.
This drum section is very good.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's insane. It's taking away from the others a little bit sometimes because it's so much happening and it's kind of louder than the others. So
yeah.
But the point I'm aiming to is, of course, this concept of more than one drummer has been done many, many times, which is an oddity in itself when you think about it, because the drum set is basically a fusion of orchestral percussion into a one-man show, if you can put it that way. And so what are the benefits and the complications you have to deal with when you add 2 more drummers to yourself?
Yes, it has. Put it this way. If you're going to let all the drummers loose and say, okay, you play what you think fits, then of course you can do that. And if you've got drummers with big ears, it can possibly work out and it'll end up sounding like Santana, you know, like a big percussion section, as it were. But you need to have some structure, which of course King Crimson have got. There's a great discipline between those guys. When I saw it, I was very impressed. It's very clever. It's very good. But as I think you were suggesting earlier, one drummer inside a band is usually enough. Yeah. We did 3 drummers. I think we even had 4 drum sets in a couple of numbers in the whole series of Super Drumming. We did that, but we passed it down the line. In other words, one drummer would be the lead for a while, you know, for a couple of choruses, and then another drummer would be the lead, and so on. And the other guys would either drop out or play something simple just to keep it all running along. It looks good. You know, the public sees these things. It looks fine. I mean, I enjoy massed drummers anyway. I sometimes watch those American drum lines that they do, that competition drumming. There's a bunch of Swiss drummers who do it really great. There's lots of drum lines in Scotland where you have more drummers, highly organised, doing things in unison and passing stuff down the line and throwing sticks and catching it here, there and everywhere. And all this is marvellous. And it looks great. I wouldn't never say anything against it. But on the other hand, the true magic of a guy sitting behind the drum set, turning it on. The magic of that is when you have we won't have him anymore, sadly, but a Buddy Rich or those kind of people who were just almost kind of magicians behind the drums with the things they did. And still today, I think we have people who have very fast hands and feet, but it's not just that. I saw Buddy Rich playing alongside of Louis Belson, one concert in London, and the two of them were on this drum show together. And they were trying to cut each other because Louis Belson, of course, was a very fine drummer and a great musician, probably musically about as good a drummer as you would ever find. But he knew that he was fast on the drums, had great technique, and he always wanted to sort of get just that little bit on top of Buddy. But I have to say, I don't think it ever really happened, because Buddy Rich was, when he let loose, it was like a Rottweiler coming out of a trap somehow. Wow, he's going to bite your head off. And it was exciting. You have to say it was exciting.
I mean, you had one of them in your show, so this is what I would call lucky. So.
It was very lucky. And the reason why I had him, and he was one of the first people I asked, because I knew he was an incredibly nice person. If you'd interviewed him, you'd have been completely charmed because he was so nice. He was kind, a tremendous drummer. I mean, a better musician than Buddy Rich for sure, as a musician goes, because Louis could write, he could arrange, he knew all of that. But as a drum, wild man, Buddy was definitely he was the governor, yeah, in those days for sure.
Expectations are a very important factor in delivering your craft. But sometimes it seems to me that our own expectations on ourselves can be our worst enemy. Mm-hmm. Criticizing yourself in a way that you use others, the audience maybe, or other people, and project this kind of critique onto them, and they are not criticizing at all. They are in awe of your playing.
They're just taking it for what it is.
Yes, he thinks I can do it, and it's all you.
Yeah.
And how can you deal with this kind of problem?
Well, this has got a lot, I have to say, this has got a lot easier in recent years. Early on, I used to worry about whether I could do certain things, because I thought I ought to be able to do them because that's what drummers were doing, The fusion thing came along, people began to get very advanced and highly developed in the terms of technique. And I thought, I have to learn all this because this is what they're doing today. But not realizing that what people enjoyed when they came to see me were other things entirely. They liked to watch me. You pointed out something very interesting earlier on when you said that I look as if I'm having fun when I'm playing, that I'm happy. And I am. I'm genuinely happy. I'm not just putting that on. That would be cheating. But I am having a good time. And I want the audience to have a good time. I want the people playing with me to have a good time. That's another thing. I want them to feel good. And therefore I encourage everybody. And I'm very happy to give praise when they play great things with me. And I've got a lovely little family of musicians who play with me in various bands, And this makes me, I'm very fortunate, really. So I'm happy. And I'm happy now to do what I think I do as, probably to play the music that I like to play. A lot of it's jazz, but what I do in my programs now is I put in jazz things, I put in rock things, fusion, Latin, that kind of stuff. And I'm very happy when the greater public enjoys the jazz, because that's what I'm trying to put forward. I'm always hoping that people will enjoy the jazz, because otherwise it'll kind of die, and it shouldn't do, because it's so great. And I don't want good things to just disappear. I'm very happy when good things are still appreciated, because they are good, and they'll never be anything better. My great love was big bands. It's very sad that I'll probably never be able to. I've had a big band over the years, but it's very, very tough to find work for a big band. You know, if you've got 15 or 16 people to pay, it's very difficult. I wish I could have done more of that. But, you know, we do the best we can with what we're able to do. So if I go out with 3 people or 4 people or 5 people or 6 people, that's okay also. You know, I'm happy with that.
For me, it was first all about drumming. Then I got injured many times. I had almost 6 years of not playing the drums due to so many injuries. Always try to come back and always have to take the first steps again. Your mind knows what to do, but the muscles don't know anymore if you have a break of 1 year. And the band has to wait, and it's wearing you down. You become a better drummer if you have this break from what you do.
Probably, yeah.
And that's an interesting thing, but coming back over and over again, it's a very hard thing to do.
Very hard. I cannot stop for the very reason that if I did, it takes... Sometimes I've been in hospital where I've been unable to practice and to use the sticks and to have the feel of the sticks in my hand and to use the muscles in my hands, and maybe for several days. And that's been horrible for me because I'm thought, oh, I'm losing it. Every day goes by, they're getting stiff, they're not working anymore. How long will it take me to get back to the same level I was before? So basically speaking, I never stop. I play every day, I practice every day. I enjoy practicing. It's not just hard work. I love to do it because I want to feel that whenever I go on, if I get a call to go on and do a show, that I can get on the stage and I'll be okay. One thing I dread is I don't want to feel ashamed of myself when I play. If I get the feeling I can't do it, or the hands and feet don't work, or the people are looking at me and saying, oh, poor old man, then I'll stop. I don't want that. I don't want any kind of pity. God help us.
Yeah, but have you ever experienced such letdowns? Maybe not yourself, but in your bands and all the people you met?
Yes, I have. In fact, I think of one example of a guy who was in a successful band, a rock band, pop band actually, and they had big success. And then for one reason or another, the band faded away and he couldn't really find any other place where he could play. So he got disillusioned and unhappy and stopped playing. Now he's coming, I'm very happy to say he's coming back into it, but it was a very hard time for him to stop playing. I don't think I would have ever done that. I think I would have always have played. I'd have always been able to play and find a place where I could play. Even if it was all by myself at home, I could still do that. And let's not forget, the drummer has the possibility to sit in the house, put a pair of headphones on and play with the best bands in the world.
Aldinger's Passport is one of my favorite jazz fusion ensembles. I believe you play on a live recording in Hamburg from 1975.
Yes.
And you played the song Angel Wings, which is by Philippe Catherine, when he was with Focus.
Yeah.
And that tune obviously traveled a little. And it's such a powerful one, it never left my mind since I heard it the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Can you comment a little bit on the Passport thing and on Focus and how this all came together? Because it's obviously a mishmash, right?
Yes, well, it was Klaus Doldinger's jubileum. And, you know, his record company, they were promoting Passport, and they had the idea to do some concerts with the Passport band plus guests. And the first one took place in 1973, where the guests were Brian Auger, myself, Alexis Korner, Volker Kriegel, and Johnny Griffin, the tenor player. And we were the guests. And in 74, we did some further concerts with that lineup because it was so successful. In 73, I think we only did 1 or 2 shows, Dusseldorf and somewhere else. And then in 74, we did a few more. And 75, the concert which you're talking about, had Philip Catherine, Buddy Guy, Johnny Griffin, Les McCann, and me. Yeah, that's right. And what was so great about these concerts, and I see Klaus Doldinger at least once a year now. He comes to our house. We have a Christmas jam session party in my house down in Munich. And I've always said to Klaus that was one of the best things I enjoyed very much because it mixed people of different styles. So you had Buddy Guy on a show with Johnny Griffin. Now, normally those two would never even meet. They're completely different worlds. You know, one's the blues world, one's the bebop world, if you like. So that to me was very important, and I've always believed in mixing musicians up and seeing what happens. And that's what we did on Super Drumming. We had guys playing with each other, like Simon Phillips playing with Louis Bellson, completely different generations, completely different backgrounds, but it worked. They liked each other, they got on well, they admired each other's drumming, and that's exactly what I wanted to get across. So the idea of, you know, we talk about fusion, but the idea of bringing different people together and creating something because those people are individuals is something I learned many, many years before when I became a fan of Duke Ellington's orchestra, which again is a jazz ensemble, but for those of you who don't know about it, I advise you to listen because you'll probably learn something. Because Duke Ellington's orchestra was made up of very different people. They all came out of jazz, but they all had different sounds. They were all individuals. They were all personalities. And he put them together and he structured the music around these different sounds that these guys were making on their instruments. And this to me is real creativity, you know, is building your library of music up around a fixed bunch of people, knowing that they play it better than anybody else will play it in the world. And this was great. And when Klaus did this with the Jubilee tours, I thought that was a fabulous idea. And I was on all of them, I'm very pleased that he invited me on all of them. And when I look back on the video things you were mentioning earlier, there's one, for example, where we play Scirocco in a studio, and Kurt Kress and I have a little, not a battle, we're swapping breaks and stuff. And it's really dynamite. And I look at it and I say, boy, that was good stuff, you know. And I'm very happy when there's a few things in my life where I can say, yeah, that was really good.
From the super drumming thing, which we didn't cover enough. No. Actually, I just wanted to talk about this, but never mind. But are there some things that went totally crazy or unexpected or funny or something like that? Was there?
Oh, yes. I tell you, we had a lot of fun because we're all in a hotel, you know, for 4 weeks doing the shoot. each year. And so the laughs in the hotel, I mean, we used to finish filming at maybe 6 or 7 o'clock, and we'd all be back in the hotel before 8, and we'd usually have something to eat all together, and then we'd be in the hotel bar, or we might go into the town. But we had a lot of laughs. There were some great laughs. But one spooky thing which happened, and this involves Louis Belson. We were playing, he was going to do Skin Deep, which was his big number with a big drum solo in it, and our little band was going to play the whole Skin Deep thing, yeah. So he started to play for the camera rehearsal, and we went through it all. He played the whole thing, right? He played the whole tune to rehearse, so the cameras knew where they had to go. So the whole thing lasted about 14 or 15 minutes. So then he stopped. So he's played it once. So then they say, okay, now we do a take. So they start to take it. Halfway through the take, the one which is going on tape, one of the bass drum beaters dropped down. The screw had gone loose and it dropped down, because you can't play the beater then. So he had to stop. So it all stops in the middle of the take, and we have to find out what went wrong, screw it up again, and
fire the guy who did this.
Yeah. So he's done it 1.5 times, this great solo, but now he's got to start again. So we go back and start again. And after it had finished, and he does a perfect take, and again, it's a 15-minute number. So he's been playing this furious drum solo for a good half an hour. So when we finished, he said, Peter, that's really strange, because when I recorded this number for the first time, which became a classic recording, it was recorded live in a ballroom in Seattle, Washington, when he was playing with Duke Ellington. And he said the same thing happened halfway through the number. The bass drum beater dropped down. I thought, God, he recorded it back in 1951 or something. And here we are all those years later, and why? The same thing happens again. Ooh, spooky.
Still the same drum tech? Nobody knows how that...
Nobody knows, no. Well, it's been a great pleasure to talk to you, drum talk to you, and thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope you've all enjoyed it, and all the best to all of you. And remember, the most important things in life, health and happiness. Bye-bye.